So the leading teachers, in fact, I won't tediously read through that, so it's all there on the website if you want it. So that was the feedback given, followed by how to deal with the difficult and more challenging students. And of course with that it was, as a lot of the learning leaders have said today, be aware that the students that do misbehave, they perceive that as a threat, and of course we need to identify the patterns of their misbehaviour and of course also modify the curriculum. So try to modify the curriculum. The last recommendation there was offered to the challenging students to focus on their interests, competencies, and thereby providing more opportunity for success. So we're running with a lot of those recommendations that Ray has made. Now, future direction.
Future direction. Lily and I have sort of been talking about it today, and now that we've got the data, we've got a little bit more to play with. But we thought it was bubbling along all well and good, but then we've got this data and we've realised we're not consistent. We need to analyse this data and to move forward. So with Robin, our principal, we had a quick discussion on some of the future directions that we can take next year to ensure that it does keep going along and that we can get that consistent message across the school. These were some of the things that we monitor: the development approaches through PLTs, that we continue to work collaboratively with the beginning startup programs, that we build in each professional, each year, there's 4 terms obviously, we're going to have one session dedicated, PL session, to professional learning that we will discuss at leadership and say, well, this is what we want to pick up on this time. That will just help enhance the staying power of it and the sustainability. It'll keep it high on the agenda. For me, that's why I think it worked in my class. It was high on my agenda, whereas other people got caught up in literacy and numeracy, and it just sort of gets put to the side. It also will help maintain that whole school approach. We're developing our own management document that would sit under the new student engagement policy. Any behaviour issues that you have must be agendaed in your PLT. We're really looking at that collective responsibility, and so if it's agendaed, it can be discussed at a PLT, and you've got more than one brain thinking about how to discuss that and how to deal with that. You can even trial discussions in that PLT, and they can help you. Well, you could try it like this, you could try it like that. We sort of thought that might be the way to go. And also in your PLT, sharing evidence of things that are working, and maybe share evidence of things that aren't, that it's not working, because it's not all going to work. It's not going to all work with every child, but it will work with some and it won't work with others, and that is valuable discussion that you could give with your PLT.
And that's where we are. So where is our journey? Well, our journey continues in 2010, and as someone said earlier on today, it's only just begun. Absolutely. So it's a long journey, and we do have to take small steps and just keep it all in perspective. And of course, finally, we'd like to, that font's changed, Ray. We'd like to thank Professor Ramon Lewis, Ray, for his inspiration, guidance, and motivating us to start our journey, our adventure, our way forward, our
all right,
onwards we go.
Stop Lily, stop.
Our journey.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Lily, and thank you, Laura. Are there any questions for our presenters from Thomastown Meadows? Ray.
You have some questions. Font's changed.
Yeah, that self-evaluation stuff that you're using,
Yes.
how come it doesn't become public embarrassment?
Sorry, for the staff.
The kids put themselves up. The one where the kids put themselves up.
Right, yep.
Because if they put themselves down there as not really responsible, and now it's on public display, do they not notice that? Does that seem not an issue for them?
No. If they were badly behaved and they put themselves down there, I didn't find that was an issue. That it was just, I just sort of, this is a new process. I thought,
it's an interesting idea.
And I actually told I've been very upfront with the students that they knew that I go away and I learn all these new things, and I told them, you are my guinea pigs. They knew that. My grade last year knew they were the guinea pigs, and I'm going to trial all these new things on you. Just go with me. And they did. And so they were happy. They were just as happy to trial these new things. And I was upfront. This is why I'm doing this, and this is what I'm hoping to get from it. So the kids knew my expectations and what I needed to learn from it and things like that.
Did you think they were accurate?
Some days they are, some days they're not. But there's always a reason to why they do. Like, I did have a little boy that did have behaviour issues, and but we'd come a long way together. I'd had him for 2 years, and then along came Ray, and I had some extra little things that I could try with him. And sometimes he would put himself, when he needed my attention a bit more, he'd put himself down the lower end so that he knew that then that would directly result in a conversation. And he knew that I wouldn't yell. They knew that. They know I'm not going to yell at them. So, and they appreciate that. Often kids would say, I like what you didn't, some of the data did say, I like that my teacher doesn't yell. They liked that, and they would say that. So he knew that would result in a conversation where he would get me all on his own, and we could talk about him until the cows come home, and he loved it. And that built our relationship and those sort of things. Yeah,
no, it's interesting. I was just thinking, I said to someone at lunch, heaven forbid I have to do that public sort of stuff for why I don't speed, because the only reason I don't speed is because I get points taken off my licence, and it would worry me to have that out in the public domain, I think. I'd like normally, I mean, I'm prepared to do it here, but I wouldn't in a group of peers to say, and yet obviously in primary level these kids seem to be able to do it, and it's not going to damage them.
Well, and that's why I put myself out there with them as well, that I'm always part of it, and that as a community we should be open.
I should say, actually, I saw you in action. It was really a pleasure to watch.
That being a community is being open and helping each other, and you can't help if you can't see. And so that was also a way for each other to see where we're at with things, and with the check-ins, how can we help each other if we don't know what you're checking in, and things like that. So being public was part of the support system.
And the fact that Laura and I were also participating, I mean, we'd put our names up there and then justify why we were feeling. And just on that check-in, there was one little boy in my grade that put himself down at the one extreme, and you sort of have that one-on-one counselling session and say what the problem was. I forgot my swimming bag today. Of course, that was devastating for this particular chap. Right. So that's how he felt on the day. But the fact that Laura and I would also put ourselves on the spectrum,
I'd hate to think where I
think
sit
the
on
openness
that spectrum,
was there.
And no, really, if you asked my dean where I sat on that spectrum, it'd be shocking. And I'm just thinking, if I had to acknowledge all the times I don't do the right thing by meetings and stuff like that, I wonder if it would be good for me or bad for me. It's got to be good for you if the person responds appropriately.
Well, and then we got kids I also got kids to graph themselves over a week so they could see the change. That was personal, that wasn't public display. Because kids don't remember each other's from day to day, but they had their own
you've also
record.
got that option of making it private anyhow, I suppose. Okay, now this is going to feed right into what you do with the staff in some form, isn't it? Because, first of all, thank you very much for that.